Hello and welcome. I am Zach Rohde, and I am here to help you create the relationship of your dreams by teaching you about masculine and feminine polarity and communication. And what I'm going to be talking about today is men competing in women's sports, because that is the clown world that we live in today, unfortunately, and somewhat tragic comedy that we're all experiencing. So I guess I could say I'm inspired to do this, though. I'm going to be doing a bit of a different take than what I have heard the last week. So for anyone who doesn't know, who doesn't really have much of a presence on social media, the last, what's it been, few days, I think I've probably seen about 100 posts on my Facebook about people outraged about this woman boxer competing with, well, some people say it's a transgender person. It actually isn't, but we'll get into that. And just lots of outrage around it. A lot of outrage around a woman getting beat up in this respect, which is happening more and more often, that men or women who think that they're men, or women who have XY chromosomes, whatever, are competing against women and absolutely destroying them in different competitions. So first of all, I really wish, I'm going to put out this thought out here. I need to go viral like this event has gone viral, because that would solve all of my business problems forever for the rest of my life if that ever happened, is every single person talking about it. So I'm going to cover a few things about this situation. Number one, just for clarity around some of these things. So the actual situation, as far as we know, is that a woman who is actually not transgender as far as I understand, but is probably intersex and has an XY chromosome, which I consider a man. I don't care if she has a uterus. I don't care about any of that stuff. Fact is, it's an XY chromosome that we're dealing with, if that is the case. Okay, so that's not someone who should be hitting another woman in boxing or competing in any sport. And that should just be common sense. But it's not in our clown world. But in reality, that should be common sense. And of course, you got these gender fluid defenders, like, people will post, hey, this is a transgender person. And then these people saying like, oh, she's not transgender. She's a woman. She has a uterus. But of course, it's irrelevant. It's like, it doesn't matter if she's like, what was the case, say, fully a man with male genitalia, or whether she had an XY chromosome. Like, that's still technically a man with much higher testosterone levels. Okay, so nobody should be defending that. Like, you're living in a different reality if you're going to defend something like that, a person who has an XY chromosome that will affect huge things physiologically should be able to compete with women. And same with people who are born like an actual man with genitalia. Obviously, that's shouldn't be happening either. So everybody's outraged about that, or a lot of people are outraged. Some people are probably celebrating. It's like, yay, it's great that women are getting beat up because it's all inclusive. Men can beat up women. Women that have XY chromosomes can beat up women. That's fantastic. Anyway, I don't really think that's fantastic. So people are outraged about that. I think that's understandable to be outraged. But number one, let's focus on a few important things. The powers that be, those that draw on our negative energy and our focus, they want us to be outraged about this stuff. Okay, so the more that we give attention to this garbage, to this clown show, and feed it with our negative energy, we're not doing anything useful. We're not doing anything constructive. Even though, yes, we should be, like, it's understandable to be outraged about something that's so messed up. Okay, so it's important when these things come up, like stuff like this one has gone viral, but stuff like this is literally happening every few seconds of the day, right? Like there are thousands of women who are being, I don't know what words I can say on YouTube. They're being assaulted. They're being assaulted. You can figure it out by immigrants in all throughout Europe, and they're not immigrants. They're refugees. They're not refugees either. They're just single young men who've come into the country without children, without women, to take advantage in many respects, financially and otherwise. I mean, that's happening all the time. That's not being reported very often, especially by the mainstream news. But it's like, my point is, there's endless amount of things to be offended and outraged by all the time. Like if this stuff was constantly in the news, we would constantly be in a state of outrage until we become completely numb to it. This is just a thing that happened to go viral, and probably on purpose, probably to distract us further with something that it's like, meanwhile, all of our savings and lifestyle are being inflated away, and our culture is being totally eroded and destroyed, and our economy is being destroyed, and they're setting us up for a massive economic collapse and all kinds of stuff, right? Like this is always happening, taking our rights and freedoms. But yes, let's distract the peons with someone who apparently has an XY chromosome, who was allowed for some insane reason to compete with a woman and beat the crap out of her in boxing. That's to drain our energy. That's to keep us focused and angry, outraged, and part of the issue around this is like, hey, you're going to be outraged. I'm outraged about it. I'll center myself and not put much of my life force into it, but because I know how much of a waste of time and energy that is. But of course, I don't like that either. I don't like anybody. I really don't like unfairness. I really don't like injustice. It's such a huge problem. But my focus in life is, it's like there's all this stuff that's going on all over the place, all these horrible things that happen, things to be outraged about. But my focus is, what's the solution to this stuff? Because it's one thing to be outraged and to complain about it, and even, spread awareness about it. I guess like in some capacity that might have some value, but at this point, not really, because everybody who's awake to how screwed up the world is, like, they already know that this clown show is going on. All right. This is the circus that we're dealing with. So how much is it really spreading awareness? It's probably at this point just spreading negativity instead of really focusing on solutions. And that is my focus in life, certainly helping men and women create the relationship of their dreams, using masculine and feminine polarity. But more than that, like even this specific issue, and I have said this ever since I started seeing men being allowed to compete with women, men who think that they're women. Ever since that time, I thought, why are these women choosing to still compete at all? Like if I was a woman in this situation, experiencing this ridiculous level of injustice that's happening to me, and I've spent all these years training, all this sweat and tears and everything. I'm not going to get into like how I don't even really think that women should be competing at that high level, because it's just going to masculinize the crap out of them. Everyone can do whatever they want. I just don't think it's going to be best for them physiologically or mentally or otherwise. But aside from that point, if I was a woman and I was masculinized enough to compete in the Olympics or in any high level sport, I am not competing against men. I refuse. I'm just not doing it. And I'm not doing it because it's a violation in so many ways of what I believe in, of what I think is right or wrong. It's not that I'm going to try my best. I'm going to be like, no, I don't compete with men. And what that would do, of course, is outrage tons of mentally ill people who have been indoctrinated to become mentally ill over the last couple decades, to believe that men and women are all just on a spectrum and gender fluid and you can be whatever you want. And that would, of course, also outrage so much of the people in the media, you know, because most of the media is all on board with this stuff. But so what? This is what we need to do. And the problem is we keep acquiescing to BS. We keep acquiescing to tyranny. We keep allowing this stuff to happen. And yes, people will complain about it. And they'll speak up about it to some degree. But it's like, why are these women? And by the way, just I guess people can interpret this however they want. There's always somebody who will say this, like, "Oh my God, you're blaming women because it's a man that's doing this. It's all the man's fault, and the people that allowed this. Yeah, they suck." But putting the blame on them doesn't fix anything. It just disempowers people from doing anything, right? Whereas I'm providing a solution, not that people in the Olympics are necessarily going to listen to this, but it's going to get worse, and it's going to become much more about just people who are competing in high-end sports, high-level sports. Okay, this is coming to everybody in so many different ways, and not just I mean, a good example, here's a perfect example. What's being taught today in public school is abhorrent. It's completely evil. It is screwing up our children and indoctrinating them. Like, I just literally read an article today about a child who wanted to transition at 13, a little girl who wanted to transition, and she had apparently been groomed for several years from her teachers, and like socially groomed, like, oh, call yourself a boy, never brought it up with the parents. And now she has been taken away from her parents because her parents didn't want her to transition and eventually cut, well, what do you do? Cut off your boobs. I don't even know what you do if you want to fully transition as a woman. She was taken away from a loving home who wanted to protect her. Talk about the outrage there, right? And this is what I mean when I say this is coming for everybody. It's coming for everybody unless we are willing to stand up against it. So I feel bad for these parents. First of all, I have tons of compassion for them. That's close to a parent's absolute worst nightmare, for their child to be kidnapped by the state because they were doing their best to protect her from a form of indoctrination that she's almost certainly going to regret in the future by her making irreversible choices. She shouldn't have been in school in the first place. That's my position. And I know how hard it is and how difficult the choices are for some parents. And some parents truly basically have next to no choice. And I get that. But we're talking two-parent family. Why is she even in school? Why is she in an indoctrination center to learn this kind of stuff in the first place? Because what public schools are built for now, I'm not saying this was necessarily, it was always screwed up. Public school always had problems. But especially now, it's to turn children away from their parents, okay, in many different ways. And I'm not saying the teachers are doing this consciously. They're not. It's not like it's a grand conspiracy that everybody is in on. I'm saying the way that it is designed from a top-down perspective, that teachers have only limited control over, that's what ends up happening. And then the students get turned against the parents, and then of course the state is fully on board with that and will kidnap your children. That's what's going on. That's one other aspect of this. I'm a trained teacher. In fact, I have 2 teaching degrees at this point. I am a public school trained, and I am also Montessori trained. And I've also taught for a year in a Montessori school. And a Montessori school was relatively good as far as schools go, I guess. I mean, certainly a hell of a lot better than a public school. But I decided not to continue teaching because I realized that this, like, the amount of change that can really be created in a system like that is very limited. because of the amount of control that the government has over curriculum, and also, you know, just the brainwashing that goes on there, the type of teachers that tend to be in schools, all that stuff. And it's like, that's not for me. I cannot do that. I will not do that. And that was before things got really, really crazy with all the indoctrination in the last 5-10 years. My point to bringing all this up is, like, we can complain about that stuff all we want, but complaining is easy and it doesn't change anything. And it often will just make things worse, because it just brings everybody down into a kind of paralyzed victim consciousness energy of, there's nothing we can do and this sucks, and why is this still happening, and this is completely absurd, right? I'm now doing everything that I want in my life, in every way. As far as my job, I have complete control of it. And what I teach, I don't have the government telling, at least not yet. I mean, who knows what's coming down the road? It's probably, we'll see. It's going to get pretty bad. But right now I can basically teach whatever I want. So I don't have to teach any gender fluidity nonsense. Man, what a horrible program I'd be running if I was teaching that. You just go to public school if you want to learn about that. You don't need a coaching program. And you know, my relationship, myself as a parent, everything. And I live as much as I can based on my principles. When the whole 2020 thing happened, you know, the 2020 thing, and I was first told to wear my slave mask like a good little slave. This was at Walmart, and there's this person that was outside to let everyone in. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I don't live in a tyranny. I'm not going to put on a slave mask for you. I'm going inside. And I did get inside. And for me, where I am at with all of this is, like, in that situation, like, I was so outraged. I can remember that moment so clearly when I was told to put on my slave mask. I'm like, I am not doing that. That is the most effed up thing I've ever heard in my life, and totally against science, totally against common sense, freedom, everything. And I'm sorry if you're listening to this and you still have bought into that scam. I really can't help you, or unless you're open to realizing it was a scam. But, you know, by this point, I think most of my listeners are fully aware that what a scam that was. And all of this stuff is a scam. It's all 100% a scam. It's all there to piss us off and to keep us angry and confused and disempowered as much as possible, and scared, and all of this. And it only occurs, it only continues to happen because so many people don't truly stand up. And the most that most people do who are waking up and realizing what is going on is they just complain and they don't provide solutions. The solutions to this Olympics thing, and to any man that's competing with a woman, any person that has an XY chromosome, I don't care if you call them a man, a woman, I don't care if they're trans, they have an XY chromosome, they're a man. The solution to that is for people who are exposed to that, those who are supposed to compete, be like, F this, I'm not doing it. And talk to your entire team and be like, none of us are competing. This is ridiculous. I only compete with women. But instead they continue to go along with it. Why do they do that? They shouldn't be. And further, like, see, the thing is, I'm a rebel. And to the, like, in school, in elementary school, because I went to public school, I went to the whole brainwashing 9 yards, but it didn't work on me. And I rebelled every step of the way when teachers wanted me to do things that I thought was stupid. It's just like, I don't care. I don't care if you're angry at me. I don't care if you punish me. I don't care if you send me to the principal's office. I don't care if my parents are pissed off at me. I'm not doing anything that I feel is unjust, that goes against my principles, that isn't right. I don't care if everyone's mad at me. I don't care if it inconveniences me. It doesn't matter to me. So if I was at the Olympics, say I was a man that's competing, I'm like, all right, let's get everybody on board. Let's all go on strike and not compete, or not compete until there's no men that are competing with women. You know, and I'm willing to lose my gold medal or whatever. I don't care. I don't care if most of the world is pissed off at me. And it's because we lack that level of principles and conviction and courage to just do the right thing that it continues. And it's going to continue, and it's going to get a lot worse. If anyone thinks that this is about as bad as it's going to get, no, it's going to get so much worse than this before it gets better. It's going to get better, but it's going to get so much worse first. And no president's coming to save you, just so you know. If you think they are, they're not. Anyway, president, prime minister, any of that. We got to save ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, and we save ourselves by not acquiescing to tyranny and to woke nonsense BS. And we need to be willing to be fully courageous and stand up for what we believe in, and have people that are angry at us, have people that are outraged at us. We have to be willing to lose clients. We have to be willing to lose customers. We have to be willing to lose family. And of course, we should do all of this respectfully and as lovingly as possible, because bringing anger and hatred and all of this stuff into the mix, it doesn't help anything. That just causes further division. There's going to be division no matter what, because there's going to be people that are too brainwashed, too indoctrinated, too unwilling to live in reality for you to have any effect on, no matter what you do. But you can still present all of this lovingly and make choices based on love for what's good and right in the world, rather than on hatred and on divisiveness and on reactivity, right? Because if we're making those decisions based on reactivity, we're not going to be creating anything better, right? Everything, we'll call it like violent revolutions and major change that's happened based on a reactivity. You can be certain that groups of people were manipulated into that, and it's exactly what was supposed to happen. And nothing's going to change for the better when we're operating at that frequency. We got to operate from a higher place in all of the decisions that we make. And so this is a challenge for anyone who chooses to speak up about this stuff, which is fine. I don't think it's the greatest use of time, but I understand it, and somebody's got to do it for sure. Somebody's got to do it, and I think it's great that some people are doing it. But really focus on asking yourself the question, am I actually doing good? Am I actually being constructive by even bringing this up? Or am I just triggered? Am I just angry at this event and I just want to complain about it? Because if it's the latter, you're not really doing anything helpful. But if you want to talk about it, it's purely to spread awareness, to provide solutions, to empower people to realize that we can make a difference, that everything truly is in our power, then that's fantastic. That's fantastic, and you should definitely do it. That's all I got for you today. Here's how I'm going to wrap things up, though. If I've created a 1-hour polarity training, this is like almost entirely unrelated, but I'm going to throw it in there anyway. There's a 1-hour polarity training. It's at polaritytraining.com, where you will learn how to create the relationship of your dreams using masculine and feminine polarity and masculine and feminine communication, how to get in touch with your instincts and operate based on those instincts, based on the way that you're showing up, based on the way that you're communicating. And it's 100% free. And that's awesome. polaritytraining.com. Go to it, watch it. It's super helpful. And then at that point, if you're interested in learning more and potentially working with me, then book a call with me and we'll have a fantastic chat. That's it for this one. You have a great day. I'll see you for the next video.